going to be talking about massive programming classes, as Rob has just said. There's a lot of them out there. You don't have to go to Coursera or edX to get thousands of students, or thousands of, either in one semester or over several, okay, who are completing your programming exercises that you're assigning several of which every week.
This is Elena Glassman's thesis defense. Years of research condensed into an hour-long public presentation, something you two will be giving one day. You can't cover everything, and on top of that, your audience is mixed. You've got your thesis committee members, family, and everyone in between listening to your presentation. Elena did well, but let's hear some feedback a professor had given her.
So let me put it in the bluntest possible way. First of all, you're assuming I care about related work, that I care about thesis statements. I don't care about any of that. They care because they came to hear an idea. And you got this really nifty idea. What seems to me embedded here is a really interesting story, which maybe started with
narrative. He's looking for her to use narrative to illustrate why her audience should care. What is narrative? What does it look like? And how can it be helpful in framing research at the start of a presentation? Let's find out. One way to begin a narrative is to start with a directive like imagine or suppose. Here's an example I used to introduce a project I worked on. Imagine you're a soldier sneaking into enemy territory. Where do you keep your hands? Right, on your rifle. But there are times when you have to let go of your weapon, to use your radio, operate a robot, or to select something on your heads-up display. Our glove lets you manipulate your electronic peripherals while keeping both hands on your rifle at all times. This microjourney is narrative. It's a way to engage the audience by placing them in a situation that highlights the problem to be solved. The narrative sets up the problem so that the solution can be introduced, the glove in the example I just gave. So while this narrative worked in New York City, it had to be modified for a similar event in Denmark, because the Danes couldn't relate to the narrative of the soldier and his rifle. But they had recently passed a law requiring hands-free driving in Denmark, so this is what I said instead. Imagine you're driving and the babysitter calls. You want to answer the phone, but you can't reach for your phone anymore. Well, if you're wearing our glove, you can answer that call. You can even make a call, change the radio station, etc., and your hands never have to leave the steering wheel. The narrative changed from a soldier needing to check in on a radio while holding a rifle, to a parent needing to check in on a child while driving a car. The glove is the same solution to both problems, but the narrative had to shift to a different scenario so that the Danes could understand the utility of the glove. So what would this narrative look like in Elena's case?
So the first idea that I'm going to present of several in this thesis defense is how to cluster and visualize solutions in a human readable way, so that you can say, oh, I can read this single solution and it represents a cluster of 1,538 solutions, okay, in some sort of deterministic, interpretable way.
So Elena found a way to group together code samples that students had written so that she could see the different code groups and better understand the solution space. There are many ways to start a talk. How could we integrate narrative into Elena's introduction? If I were giving this talk, this is what I'd say. It is nerve-wracking to debug student code in front of 200 watching and waiting students, because there are so many ways to write code, the bug isn't always obvious. Now imagine you had access to all the implementations written by the other students grouped by similarity. Then you could tell which group this piece of code belonged to and which approach the student took. That could help with finding the bug. You could even tell if the student found a new approach. Let me show you a system that I built that does just that. So what I did was 1. Use imagine, 2. Create a scenario that the audience could relate to in order for 3. The audience to be able to both understand and care about the solution being presented. So the next time you talk about research, consider using a narrative as a means for helping the audience to connect to the problem that your research is going to solve.